educators, school leaders, and future educators and professionals joining us from different parts of the Philippines today. As we wait for the other participants to enter the virtual room. Audible ako. Am I audible? Po? Okay, thank you for that. So, as we wait for others to enter the virtual room, let's have a quick interaction in the chat box. Kindly type your name, school or institution, division or province, and one word that describes your expectations for today's webinar. So good morning po. We have Mr. Alrom Cristiano from Kalibo, Aklan, and also we have from Tacloban City. Others po? Okay. Alright. So we have we have also from Baguio City. Tama po ba ako? From Santo Tomas. Okay, thank you po. Good morning po and welcome to our webinar. So we can already see our participants from different regions. Welcome and thank you for spending your valuable time with us today. So before we formally begin, make sure that your microphone is muted, your internet connection is stable, and your learning mode is on because today's webinar will surely be insightful and engaging. So, ladies and gentlemen, educators and future builders, welcome to the national webinar on Strengthen New Senior High School Curriculum with a timely and relevant theme, industry-aligned competencies, preparing future-ready Filipinos. So today's webinar is not just an online learning session, it is a collaborative space where we explore how the strengthened senior high school curriculum can be better prepare learners for employment, entrepreneurship, higher education, and lifelong success. To start with a positive energy, let's do a quick webinar pulse check. If you are excited and ready to learn, kindly type future ready. Oh, our participants are really future ready. So with that energy, thank you for your enthusiastic participation. So this webinar is made possible through the collaborative efforts of the Professional Regulation Commission or the PRC, the Department of Education, the CPD Group of London, the American Council of Training and Development, and yours truly, the RONAS Training Center. We sincerely thank you all our partners and stakeholders for continuously supporting programs that promote quality education and professional development. To ensure a smooth, productive webinar experience, kindly observe the following webinar etiquette. If you agree, kindly type noted in the chat box. Please keep your microphones muted throughout the webinar proper. Use the chat box respectfully for questions, comments, and reflections. Avoid sending unnecessary or unrelated messages during the session. Participate actively during interactive activities and open forum. This webinar is being recorded for documentation and quality assurance purposes. Kindly complete all attendance forms, evaluation forms, pre-test, post-test, and assessment activities posted in our Google Classrooms. Thank you for your cooperation and professionalism. To formally begin our webinar, may we invite everyone to pause for a short prayer followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for gathering us all today in this important endeavor. We ask that you bestow your guidance and blessing upon each attendee. May we honor one another by keeping an open mind. May we voice our truth and listen with an open heart. Bless everyone present today, that each may be able to share his or her contributions and gifts. Grant good health and safety to loved ones left outside this room, and bestow peace and goodwill to all of us. We ask for your wisdom and grace to use our talents for the betterment of others. May the various activities related to this day be a success through your intervention. With gratitude, we offer this prayer in your name. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Kayang magiging kasasinananan, alam ng puso sa higit mo'y buhay. Upang hinihang, kuya ka ng magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisikin, sa nagkakatutong sa sibayan, sa langit ang pangaw, ay hinatang mula kawin sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang lang pagkawat mo'y nagumpay na nagtitindig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan ang ay di matitindig. Lumalang araw ng warhagin pagsika, buhay langit sa piling ko. Ang ibigaya ng kangay mga amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Once again, good morning, everyone. To formally welcome us all to this meaningful national webinar, it is our honor to introduce the CEO of RONAS Training Center, an advocate of quality education and professional growth. Please welcome Dr. Franz Byron Guillen. Let's give him a virtual round of applause, please.
Isang magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Sa mga haligi ng edukasyon, sa ating mga resource speakers, master teachers, at curriculum warriors, sa mga bayani sa likod ng classroom, sa ating mga school heads, teachers, and dedicated educators. At sa inyo, mga gurong Pilipino, na kahit pagod, nagising, nagkape, at nag-login ngayong umaga dahil may batang umaasa sa inyo. Welcome sa araw na hindi natin dapat kalimutan. Today, we stop preparing students for the world that was. And today, we start preparing them for the world that is. Let me be clear, hindi tayo nandito para sa isang webinar lang. We are here for a revolution, isang tahimik na revolusyon, hindi sa lansangan, kundi sa loob ng classroom, sa inyong lesson plans, sa inyong learning action cell sessions, sa paraan ng pagtingin ninyo sa isang grade 11 at grade 12 student, at sa pagtanggi ninyong hayaan siyang magtapos ng hindi handa. Kasi ang totoo, masakit pero kailangan nating tanggapin. Nagbabago na ang mundo ng trabaho habang tayo'y abala sa pagtuturo. The jobs our grade 11 students will compete for in 2028 do not even exist yet. Artificial intelligence will write, robots will build, algorithms will decide. Pero may isang bagay na kailanman hindi mapapalitan ng makina, ang pusong Pilipino, ang galing ng Pilipino, ang diskarte ng Pilipino. That is why the Department of Education did not just adjust, nag-reboot ito. The strengthened senior high school curriculum is not a patch, it's a promise. Isang panata na hindi na tayo magpapalabas ng graduates na may diploma pero walang direksyon. Kaya ang theme natin ngayon ay puno ng layunin, industry-aligned competencies, preparing future-ready Filipino workforce. Ano ang ibig sabihin ng industry-aligned? Simula ngayon, the classroom responds to the needs of the community. Ang lesson plan ay sasagot sa pangangailangan ng labor market. Kapag nagtuturo ka ng entrepreneurship, hindi lamang theory ang tinuturo mo, binubuo mo ang susunod na CEO. Kapag nagtuturo ka ng information and communication technology, hindi lamang code ang tinuturo mo, hinuhubog mo ang susunod na team leader sa isang business process outsourcing. Kapag nagtuturo ka ng humanities and social sciences, hindi lamang debate ang tinuturo mo, hinuhubog mo ang susunod na tagapagtanggol ng katotohanan sa bansa natin. At ano ang ibig sabihin ng future ready? We will teach our students to be water, not stone. Ang bato nababasag kapag nagbago ang mundo. Ang tubig umaagos. Ang tubig nakakahanap ng paraan. Yan ang Pilipino. Yan tayo. Sa ating mga guro, nakikita ko kayo. I see the 5 a.m. alarms. I see the lesson plans you finish at midnight. Nakikita ko ang learning gaps na bumabagabag sa inyong pagtulog. I see the parents who expect miracles from you. Pero nakikita ko rin ang kapangyarihan ninyo. Dahil sa inyong mga kamay, hindi lamang ballpen at marker ang hawak ninyo. In your hands is an entire generation. Isang inspired na lesson plan mula sa inyo can end the cycle of poverty for one family. Wag na wag ninyong kakalimutan yan kailanman. Sa ating mga school leaders, you are not just administrators. You are architects ng kinabukasan ng mga bata. The success of this curriculum will not be written in department orders. Masusulat ito sa inyong tapang. Ang tapang na sabihing, hindi pwede, ang pwede na. So let's be honest. Hindi ito webinar para lang makomply ang CPD units ninyo. This is a war room para bawiin natin ang kinabukasan ng mga anak natin. Hindi ito tungkol sa pag-memorize ng bagong senior high school subjects. This is about remembering why we became teachers in the first place. Dahil sa huli, hindi tayo nag-i-implement ng curriculum lamang. We are implementing hope. Nag-i-implement tayo ng pag-asa. Hope for the senior high school student who thinks his only option is to be construction worker. Pag-asa para sa single mother sa grade 12 na akala niya imposible ang mag-college. Hope for the nation that the world once called developing but will soon be called dominant. Mga kasama, kailanman hindi nilayon na sumali lang ang Pilipino sa global workforce. We are meant to lead it with our excellence, with our heart, with our faith, and now with industry-aligned competencies. So I welcome you not to a webinar, but a mission. Isang mission upang kapag nagtanong ang mundo, where do we find the most future-ready workers? Ang sagot ng mundo, sa Pilipinas. Hanapin ninyo ang Filipino graduates. Let us begin para sa bata, para sa bayan, para sa kinabukasan na hindi hinihintay kundi ginagawa. Mabuhay ang mga gurong Pilipino, mabuhay ang bagong senior high school, mabuhay ang future-ready Filipino.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gian, for your inspiring and empowering message. Indeed, your words reminds us that education continues to evolve and educators must continue to innovate to meet the demands of the future. At this moment, we are honored to receive a message of support from our educational leaders and partners whose commitment continues to strengthen quality learning initiatives in the country. Let us all watch and listen to their inspirational message. Allow me to read the message of support from the Vice President of the Philippines, Ms. Sara Z. Duterte. Assalamualaikum. I extend my warmest greetings to the men and women behind the Realizing Opportunities, Nurturing Achievers, or the RONAS Training Center, and all participants of the National Workshop Seminar on Addressing Pedagogical Challenges for all teachers and school leaders. Thank you for your dedication and empowering teachers and shaping the future of our nation. The theme Bangon Edukasyon Towards a Nation Bridge Uplifted and Empowered Teachers and Learners highlights the vital role of education in fostering a brighter future. As we face ongoing pedagogical challenges, your commitment to providing a platform for sharing best practices is commendable. Continuous learning is essential for teachers and school leaders to adapt and thrive, ensuring that we equip our students to become informed, analytical, and skilled citizens. I encourage all educators to embrace these opportunities for growth, professional development for teachers applicant. In service, teachers and school administrators enhances their skills, foster leadership capabilities, and ultimately leads to improved students' outcomes. Together, through the collaboration and shared experiences, we can strengthen our education system and contribute to the nation building. I look forward to seeing the positive impact of this workshop and the collective advancement of our educators. Congratulations and more power. Let us continue to inspire resilience and progress within our communities through our collective efforts. Mahalin natin ang Pilipinas para sa Diyos, sa bayan at sa pamilyang Pilipino. Shukran. Thank you very much for those meaningful message of encouragement and support. So at this juncture, our first web session. We are privileged to he of the Philippines Open University and completed his Doctor of Philosophy and Education Management at Holy Name University. His expertise include educational technology, instructional leadership, competency-based education, and digital learning systems. He is also recognized for his excellence in ICT innovation and educational leadership, receiving several distinctions and awards in the field of education. Ladies and gentlemen, speaker, Dr. Fernando B. Enad. Let's give him a virtual round of applause, please.
Thank you so much for that very kind introduction, Mary Joy. Right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. No, let me just go ahead and share my screen. Mary Joy, can you confirm that my screen is already visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay. Once again, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Strength in Senior High School curriculum, streamlining structures for learner-centered success, with the theme industry-aligned competencies, preparing future-ready Filipinos. So I believe the input or the welcome address of the CEO of Verona's was so clear about the need to really conduct this event because first, it's new, and a better way to be able to prepare is to get information for us to be able to strategically plan out the upcoming school year. And I believe we are participated by teachers or instructional leaders from the two sectors, the public and the private. I'm pretty sure you also are kind of thinking as to how to properly implement the Strength in Senior High School curriculum, especially for those who were not part of the pilot implementation. So let me go ahead and get started. So my session is entitled The Whys and the Hows of the Strength in Senior High School curriculum. So we will be talking about why is there a need for DepEd to actually transition from the old curriculum to the new curriculum, the one that we call now as the Strength in Senior High School curriculum. I just would like to put forward a disclaimer, all right, before I'll start. So the information that will be shared during this session is based on first-hand experience because our school is one of those who piloted the Strength in Senior High School curriculum, right? This is also based on existing DepEd orders and releases and check-in meeting inputs from the CO or the central office. So please take note that this may still be subject to change because accordingly, the DepEd will be releasing a DepEd order particular to the implementation of the Strength in Senior High School curriculum as a full implementation, meaning covering all public schools as well as private schools. So just wait. Oh, of course, we will expect a release, but somehow what I'll be talking here will be kind of aligned to what will DepEd release in the coming days. Now, to give you the objectives, so by the end of the day, those participating will understand why the senior high school curriculum was strengthened, resulting to the strengthened senior high school curriculum. And a second is to be familiar with the key features of the new curriculum, What are the new things that we need to understand? What are the new concepts pertinent to the strength in senior high school curriculum? And of course, to know what to expect moving forward. So, what is expected and what can you probably prepare to seamlessly implement the strength in senior high school curriculum for the coming school year? So, let me start with answering first the first objective. Why is it that the strength in senior or the senior high school is to be strengthened? So it boils back first, of course, to the Republic Act or the legal basis to which it has become the anchor, no, for the implementation of the K to 12 curriculum. Accordingly, if you could recall, because of RA 10533 or the Enhanced Basic Act of 2013, what happened is that kindergarten has become institutionalized and DepEd added 2 more years in the basic education, and that is grade 11 and grade 12, with the goal of attaining the 4 exits, and that is higher education. So for those who'd like to pursue future education, they can go ahead and proceed to college, or graduates of the K to 12 are ready for employment. And that's the reason why we're also offering tech voc courses or subjects for our learners. And of course, entrepreneurship. And of course, we have here the middle level skills. So that's the reason why it is also expected, or yeah, it is, that's ideally, no, that our learners will graduate with national certificates. That's basically the goal of the middle level skills, no, so that after graduating senior high school, they can proceed to upper um, level skills, such as getting NC3 or NC4 for the NC2 or NC1s that they have obtained during the senior high school years. However, the goal of the law is actually, of course, it's kind of positive. They have the goal that our learners will be ready for whatever exits they may choose to actually undertake. However, for I believe 9 to 10 years of implementation, key challenges were actually identified. And from these challenges, from consultations, from surveys, they were able to identify that the current curriculum, the senior high school curriculum of the K to 12 curriculum is overloaded with subjects. They've also identified that there's mismatch on competencies. They've also identified that there's limited flexibility. If we talk about limited flexibility, we can be talking about strands, right? Because if the learner has started taking ABM, for example, in grade 11, he must be able to finish that in grade 12, because if he would like to transfer or shift to a different strand, that would mean that he's going to start all over again relative to the specialized subjects or specialization subjects. They've also were able to identify that there's a weak industry relations, and that's the reason why, if you notice, there are at times wherein the learners will just really proceed to the work immersion area, and they will just be asked to prepare coffee or to clean, which is not really aligned with what is the expectation, of their stance. And accordingly, there was a survey conducted in 2023 by Pulse Asia, and they were able to identify that only 41% of Filipinos were satisfied with the senior high school, citing it as inadequate preparation for either work or further studies. So, taking everything, challenges, as well as the survey, it is then that DepEd decided that the curriculum of the K to 12 has to be strengthened, has to be improved to make it more aligned and to make it more addressing to whatever is the need of the Filipinos and in the future. All right, so I will now be talking about the features of the Strengthened Senior High School curriculum. And I know that this is not new for everyone, because I'm pretty sure that most of you've already tried to access the shaping paper, no, the releases, the depth orders pertinent to the strength and senior high school curriculum. So my task here would be to reintroduce this with an in-depth explanation of these features so that we'll be able to understand, the strength and senior high school curriculum better and be able to prepare seamlessly for its implementation. So let me start with the feature one. This is the reduction of tracks from four to two. But I'd like to clarify, it's not really more of reduction, it's more of realignment because what happens in here is that instead of having academic, the tech voc, the sports, and the arts and design, the academic, the sports, and the arts design are just like being merged. So meaning the subjects under sports and arts and designs are just migrated under academic. So what happens right now, instead of having the four tracks originally from the old curriculum, we now have the academic, which now houses the four strands, of the old academic track plus the subjects under sports and arts and design. And then for the technical vocation livelihood, it's just being relabeled, right? And kind of reorganized to become what we call as the technical professional track. So again, under the new strength in senior high school curriculum, we now only have two tracks. That is the academic track as well as the technical professional track or the tech pro track. So meaning there are only two classifications now of our learners. That's academic and technical professional. Now let's move on to the reduction of the required subjects. If we go back to the old curriculum, we should be able to identify or recognize that there were 15 core subjects, right? There were 7 applied subjects, and we have about 9 for the academic track. That 9 includes the one subject for work immersion. And then for the TVL subjects, we had about 3, that's 2 NC related courses or subjects plus the work immersion. Now with the strength in senior high school curriculum, what happened here is that the subjects were being reduced. The 15 core subjects have now been made into just the 5 core subjects. So from 15 to 5. So you might want to ask, what happens to the rest of the subject under the 15 core subjects? So those subjects were, not all of them, were kind of migrated into the electives, and you will see that later. All right. So under the strength in senior high school curriculum, there are only 5 core subjects. And then on top of the 5 core subjects, if we talk about core subjects, meaning regardless of the track, the learner has to be able to take, enroll, and obviously pass it to get at least one step, to take on a step to be able to graduate. And on top of the core subjects, learners are expected to also take elective subjects, and the following are the minimum. Now, if the learners are going to be enrolling for academic track, on top of the 5 core subjects, they're expected to also, at least, at the minimum, complete 16 elective subjects. But it can change depending on the number, right? The number of hours of an elective. The 16 that I specified there is for an elective that is only comprised of 80 hours, so meaning an elective of 80 hours. So that means to say, if the learner will be taking an elective which has a requisite of probably 160, it will just go down, to just 15. Or if the learner would like to go ahead and take a 320 elective, for example, work immersion, all right, that would go down to 12, all right. Now, however, for the Tech Pro track, this is the minimum requirement, and that is to be able to take 2 Tech Pro electives plus a mandatory work immersion. And then later on, you'll be able to understand better as to what I meant with these. What I have here is just really the minimum, all right? And if you will be asking if the learners could go ahead and add more, they definitely can. However, they're limited to or classroom instruction is only limited at a maximum of 40 hours per week. So in the implementation, and you're able to see that there are so spaces, or allocation or slots, then yes, we can add more. All right. Now let's proceed to the third feature of the Strength in Senior High School curriculum, and this is the clustering of subjects. Um, Before, there's what we call as strands, no, per track. All right. So what happens right now is that under the Strength in Senior High School curriculum, it's now relabeled as clusters. All right. However, it doesn't have the same meaning as that of the strands, because if you talk of strands, it's like if you enroll to ABM, you should only be taking ABM. If you're enrolled to UMS, you should only be taking UMS. The same for um, STEM, right? As well as gas. Because here in the Strength in Senior High School curriculum, it's already flexible. But anyway, before me talking in depth about that, let me just go ahead and show you first, or discuss first with you, the the classifications, or the clustering of the subjects under the Strength in Senior High School curriculum. So of course, there's what we call as the core subjects, which is common for everyone who is enrolling for the senior high school. And on top of that, there's what we call as academic electives, as well as the Tech Pro electives. Now, under the academic electives, we have the what we call as clusters. And if you could notice, it's like similar to strands. So, however, in the Strength in Senior High School curriculum, we're not really grouping them in a way that these are the only subjects that the learner can take. But in here, we can have a combination, right, of academic electives from any of the strands, because our goal is that the electives that we're going to go ahead and offer to our learners is, of course, based on the school capacity as well as the interest of the learners. So under the new cluster, under academic electives, we now have the arts, social sciences, and humanities. So if you could notice, it's like a merging of UMS plus the arts and design. All right. And then we have the business and entrepreneurship. It's just basically from the ABM. All right. And then we have the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That's from the STEM before. And then we have here the sports, health, and wellness from the sports. And we also have the field experience, all right, cluster, which I'll go ahead and cover later in in-depth manner. For the Tech Pro electives, before we only have the ICT, the HE, the IA, and the EFA or the AFA. But right now, we have kind of expanded it, all right? And there's reorganization of the clusters. We now have the aesthetic wellness and human care. We have the agri-fishery business and food innovation, and then up until we have maritime. And if you could also notice, the ICT, excuse me, the ICT before, the ICT strand before is now actually labeled as the ICT support and computer programming. And if you take a look at the subjects under the clusters, you would notice that the creative arts and design technology are but electives from the original strand under ICT. I will show that later. All right. Now, another feature of the Strength in Senior High School curriculum is what we call as the cross-track option. Before, it's called doorway option, but for this year, they are relabeling it to the cross-track option. So what happens in the cross-track option is that the learner, all right, I mentioned a while ago that the learner will enroll for academic, meaning he can enroll to any subjects under the different electives, right? However, for this feature, what happens here is that the learner will now be able to do a cross-track enrollment, meaning if the learner is tagged as an academic track learner, he or she can go ahead and also enroll, right, electives from a different track, and that's vice versa. All right. Now, before we kind of analyze that further, let's take a look first at the requirements. So, what I mentioned before is that under academic track, there are 5 subjects and 6 core subjects and 16 academic electives. This is the minimum. And then for the Tech Pro, again, there's going to be 5 core subjects and then 2 Tech Pro electives with a work immersion of 60 or 640 hours. All right. So what would happen if there's going to be a cross track? So for a cross track, it can only happen in grade 12. So there's no cross tracking in grade 11 because it doesn't make sense that you cross track um, bec- because first is that there's going to be time constraint, especially now that we have the 3 term. All right. And second is that grade 11 is the identifier or the identifying mechanism as to what to classify the learners with. So the electives that the learners will take in grade 11 would determine if the learner is actually an active track or a tech pro track learner, right? And that's the reason why the cross track will happen during grade 12. So what will happen is that grade 12 academic track learners may take 1 Tech Pro elective, while grade 12 Tech Pro learners may take 4 academic electives. Why is that so? That is because the Tech Pro elective is comprised of 320 hours. So of course, so that there's going to be even distribution, if the a Tech Pro learner would need to forego 1 Tech Pro elective to be able to enroll, right, to a to be able to enroll to an academic elective. So what's going to happen is that he needs to replace it with the same number of hours. So more likely that's going to be 320 hours. That's a combination of 4 academic electives. So this is what can possibly happen. And that's a combination because a Tech Pro is requiring for a learner to graduate with work to with whether work immersion because that's mandatory. What can happen is that the work immersion can be reduced from 640 to 320 so that a learner in grade 12 will be actually able to enroll to at most 4 academic electives. And on the other hand, the an academic track learner can forego because it'd be difficult to have just 1 Tech Pro and replace it with 1 academic elective. And you will understand later as to why. So the learner in the academic track can forego 4 academic electives and replace that with a 1 Tech Pro elective. So that is how cross-track option happens. And again, I'd like to highlight that this can only happen in grade 12. All right. So I hope that's clear. Now, let's also move to the fifth feature of the Strengthened Senior High School curriculum, and that is the revised time allotments per subject. So like what I mentioned, we have 3 categories of subject. We have the core subjects. There's what we call as the academic electives for those enrolled under the academic track, and the Tech Pro electives for those enrolled under the Tech Pro track. For the core subjects, that is 160 hours each offered in 1 year, 3 terms. So meaning, not like before, wherein we change subjects per semester. For the core subjects, it's going to be offered all throughout the year. So there's a total of 160, and that's the same subject for term 1, term 2, and term 3. However, if we talk about academic electives, most of the academic electives is just 80 hours. Right? And based on Depit Order number 9, Series 2026, as well as the Strengthened Senior High School Briefer, a subject or an academic elective can only be offered in 1 term. So meaning you cannot spill it over to the 2nd term or to the 3rd term. And that's also one of the challenges that has to be considered in the implementation or in the plotting of the subject. So I'd like to highlight again, for the academic electives, regardless if it's grade 11 or grade 12, most of it is 80 hours and it can only be offered in 1 term. So meaning after 1 term, that elective is completed and therefore cannot be spilled over to the next term. All right. Now, for the Tech Pro electives, however, it has a different mechanism, and that is based on what level is it being offered. A Tech Pro elective, regardless of what those electives are, if they're offered in grade 11, all right, and like what I mentioned a while ago, each of the Tech Pro elective has 320 hours each. If it's offered in grade 11, it has to be offered all throughout the year, right? So meaning it's going to be offered for term 1 up to term 3 because of the 320-hour requirement, all right? So it's like if offered in grade 11, it's like being treated as a core subject, wherein it's going to be offered all throughout the year, all right? For, yeah. And I'll go ahead and cover later as to the hour requirement. However, if a tech pro elective is to be offered in grade 12, right, it is only offered in a single term, right? And that is based on Deped Order number 9, series 2026, plus, right, the SSHS briefers. So again, I'd like to highlight that again, no? For grade 11, if it's the Tech Pro elective, that's 320 hours, and that's going to be spread over the school year for the whole grade 11. But if it's going to be offered in grade 12, it cannot be spilled over to the whole year. Instead, it can only be offered in one term, right? Meaning, say for example, you're now offering grade 12 strength and senior high school curriculum. If you will be offering the second Tech Pro elective to your learners, that particular Tech Pro elective must be finished in term 1. So that for term 2 or term 3, it can be just the work immersion, or if you'd like to add another Tech Pro, then another Tech Pro for the second term, then work immersion for the third term. Or if you do want to have a cross track, so the second term for grade 12 can be replaced with 4 academic electives. And then again, third term will be focused on the work immersion. And I'll be showing you samples later of the class programs. Right, so this is how we did it, right? In the old curriculum, we have about 31 subjects. We spread it all over the semesters and the levels. So this is how we treated our subjects under the old curriculum. Now, under the the Strength in Senior High School curriculum, and this is an example of an academic track, what we can go ahead and do following the Deped Order number 9, right? Particular to the 3 term. So, effective communication / mabisang komunikasyon, life and career skills, general mathematics, general science, and then pag-aaral ng kasaysayan at lipunan ng Filipino are the core subjects, and these are to be offered across the year from term 1 to term 3. And then what happens here is that you're also allowed to actually offer, this is for the academic track, by the way, you are allowed to offer 1 academic elective per term. So meaning for grade 11, you should be able to offer 3 academic electives. And if you could notice, we have asterisks there. So the one with a single asterisk, the core subjects, that is to be offered 4 hours weekly. As if you'd like to strategize that to become MWF, DTH, or whatever that is, that's up to you. The only requirement is that it has to be offered 4 hours weekly. However, if you notice on the academic electives, it has 2 asterisks, and these are to be offered 8 hours weekly. All right. And that would be the same for grade 12, and that's going to be spilled over, right? That has to be spilled over for the grade 12. So the arrangement I have here is that I'll have 4 electives for term 1, in grade 12, and then another 4 for term 2, and then the last 4 for term 3. That is for the academic track. Now, let me show you an example of Tech Pro track. So for a Tech Pro track, if we are going to follow the 2-term model for work immersion, this is how it would look like. So what's going to happen here is that, by the way, I need to make some changes on the term 1. This is wrong. This is not 8 hours, but this is applicable to the grade. I'll change that later. Okay. For the Tech Pro elective, it's going to be offered 8 hours weekly. All right. And then, like what I mentioned, we only, or DepEd only requires a minimum of 2 Tech Pro elective plus work immersion of 640 hours. So what can happen is that the first Tech Pro can be taught in grade 11, and that's going to be taught all throughout the year. And again, that's 8 hours weekly. And then in grade 12, because that is to be offered in a single term. So what's going to happen is that it should be offered based on the latest check-in meeting. All right. It should be offered at least 6 hours a day daily, right? So 6 hours daily, 5 times a week. So if you could take a look at that, that's like about 30 hours. Okay. So that's 30 hours for a week. And then for term two, I can have my work immersion one, and then term three, another work immersion, because we're following the two-term model. Let me also show you. So again, I like to highlight that this is wrong. This is pertaining to Tech Pro 1 elective for grade 11. For grade 12, it is not 8 hours. That is 6 hours, right? 6 hours daily, 5 times a week, all right? For the Tech Pro elective in grade 12. Now let me show you for the one-term model. So for the one-term model, we can leave the old grade 11 assets. For grade 12, what we can do is that we could replace one work immersion, all right? One work immersion with another Tech Pro elective. And then the third term will be work immersion. Please disregard the number 2 there. I just forgot to eliminate that. It's like Tech Pro 2 for term 1, Tech Pro 3 for term 2, and then work immersion for work immersion for term 3. Now, if there's a cross track, so what you can possibly do is that on term 2, you can replace this with academic track. All right, so there's just going to be 2 Tech Pro electives, 4 academic electives, and then 1 work immersion. So that is the explanation of it. And again, I'd like to highlight that the 8 hours weekly is pertaining to the Tech Pro elective offered in grade 11. What will happen here for term 1, term 2 for grade 12 is that it's going to be offered 6 hours daily, 5 times a week, if it's going to be a Tech Pro track. Okay. Now, the sixth feature of the Strengthened Senior High School curriculum is the extension of work immersion hours from 80 to 320 to 320 to 640. Right? So there's basically a change. But I'd like to highlight about the strict schedule limit. According to DepEd, there should only be a maximum of 8 hours a day and a maximum of 40 hours per week. And if we talk about per week basis, it's flexible. It can be done on a weekday or it can be done on a weekend. However, it should only be a maximum of 5 days per week, right? So that's the restriction that that DepEd actually has in place for the work immersion. So what can we offer to our learners in terms of work immersion? For the Tech Pro track, it's actually mandatory, at least 320 mandatory hours. All right. But if you'd like to offer the two-term model, so that becomes 640. So it's okay. And accordingly, the work immersion can be offered any of the terms in grade 12, especially if you have a large batch and it's going to be difficult to do work immersion for a multitude of learners. So you can have the work immersion in batches. You can have some learners do work immersion for term 1, and the rest are doing their regular classes. Term 2, yeah, the rest, once they're back, so on and so forth. It's a good combination. For 640 hours, however, there's a caveat there, and that is that you cannot cut. You cannot cut the session. It should be in succession. So meaning if you're going to offer 2-term work immersion, so it can be term 1 up to term 2, right? And then another is a term 2 to term 3. You cannot have term 1 and term 3. It should be in succession, right? Now for the Tech Pro track, it's mandatory at least 320 hours, right? However, for the academic track, they may choose one modality, right? So one is that they may have field exposure. The field exposure are for those academic track that does not belong to arts, right? So meaning those that are under just the regular humanities, just the regular business and entrepreneurship, just the regular what we call as also even the sports, right? As well as the STEM. Okay, so they can go ahead and enroll into the field exposure. The field exposure is just like the work immersion before. It's just only 80 hours. It's a subject. And if you try to break down 80 hours, that's basically 20 hours of pre field exposure, and then 40 hours actual field exposure, and then another 20 hours the post field exposure. However, for the arts apprenticeship, that's 80 to 160, and you need to consider the prerequisites, right? On top of that, the learner may also choose to have a work immersion of 320 hours, even if they're academic, right? And also, there are requisites to be considered, and as to what those requisites are, I'll also show later to you guys as to what those requisites are, so that learners under the academic track will be able to actually take work immersion. So, if you go back to the requirement of 16 or 15, no? So what would happen is that we could take off, right? We could take off 4 academic electives and replace that with a work immersion because the 320 hours is equivalent to 4 academic electives. And I'll show you later as to how it would look like. Now, let me go ahead and talk about the core subjects, right? For the core subjects, I'm not going to be talking in depth, right, about them, as this will be covered in session 2 in the afternoon. But my task here is to just introduce to you the 5 core subjects that will be offered under the Strengthened Senior High School curriculum. We have effective communication / mabisang komunikasyon. And I'd like to highlight that it's actually one subject with 2 components. It's like MAPE, right? The MAPE has the music and arts first component, and then the PE and health second component. So this is not a subject to which you can just choose if you'd like to take effective communication or mabisang komunikasyon. It's one subject, right? So I'd like to highlight on that because we have certain cases before during the pilot implementation wherein one school actually did just only choose effective communication because they feel that effective communication is just the English version of mabisang komunikasyon, right? So they're kind of just tweaking it. I will just go for the effective communication. No, for the Strengthened Senior High School curriculum, that is one subject because this is a bimodal subject. This is being taught in Filipino as well as English. By the way, effective communication / mabisang komunikasyon is what we call as equivalent to the purposive communication in college. In college, they have their GE, the general education, purposive communication. So based on the plan of DepEd and SHED is that subject, purposive communication, will be brought down to the basic education. And we are providing it another nomenclature that's effective communication / mabisang komunikasyon. And then for the life and career skills, it's the understanding the self-GE subject from college, which is brought down to the basic education. All right. And then we have the general mathematics, which is mathematics of the modern world in college, which is now brought down to the basic ed. And then we have the general science. So basically, this is not the same general science or science in the old curriculum because the competencies are aligned with the science, technology, and society of a GE college subject. All right. And then the pag-aaral ng kasaysayan at lipunang Pilipino, that's basically Philippine history in college being brought down to the basic ed, right? Now, again, each of the subject is allocated 160 hours for the whole year. But here's the caveat here, right? The effective communication and mabisang or / mabisang komunikasyon is considered as one subject and therefore it's given 160 hours for the whole year. However, it must be noted that each of the component of the subject must be given 80 hours each. So that means to say, they're kind of dividing the 160 into 2, and that makes it 80 hours for effective communication component and 80 hours for the mabisang komunikasyon component. And both are to be taught simultaneously in the whole school year. I'd like to emphasize that. Why? Because in the pilot implementation, there's this one school, and what they did is to offer effective communication for quarter one, mabisang communication for quarter two, effective communication for quarter three, and then mabisang communication for quarter four, and that's wrong. There's also a school wherein they offered effective communication for the first semester during the old term schedule, and mabisang communication for the second semester, and that was wrong. Why? Because they have to be taught simultaneously. Just like in MAPE, right? We're not breaking it into components to be able to just grade a component in a quarter, right? When we compute for MAPE, it's a combination of two components, right? We added them, we divided by two. And that's going to be the same thing for effective communication and mabisang communication. So meaning, effective communication will be graded separately, mabisang communication will be graded separately. They're going to be added, divided by two, and that's going to be the final rating or grade for effective communication slash mabisang communication. And I hope that we're clear with that and that the confusion is now being addressed. Okay. Now, where can you go ahead and download the curriculum guides, right? You can download it by going to deped.gov.ph and selecting Strengthen Senior High School Curriculum, or you can just go ahead and open that link. You can just go to the navigation panel, go to curriculum guides, and then select course subjects. You should be able to take a look at the curriculum guides. On top of that, I also included the link for the budget of work. Later, I'll be sharing to you. No, you don't need to take actually a screenshot because I'll be sharing the PowerPoint or the slide deck, right? So that you can really click on links that are part of the slide deck, right? I've included the budget of work so that you will be guided as to what are the topics, because the ones that you can download from the website is being spread into 4 quarters, right? So considering that there's a 3-term policy update in the calendar, so I've included the budget of work, and this is released by DepEd. You can access it here as to what are the topics and competencies for term 1, for term 2, and then for term 3. Now let's move to the elective subjects. Well, like as what I've mentioned, there's what we call as the academic electives as well as the tech pro electives. All right. Now, under academic electives, we have actually 5, and that's most of them 80 hours per semester. I'd like to highlight that you can only offer electives with curriculum guides. So DepEd is so stringent that you cannot offer electives with no curriculum guides, because according to them, if you're going to be offering an elective that does not have a curriculum guide, that is an authorized and not authorized elective, and it may result to problems such as tagging, right, of the learners, because in the Strengthen Senior High School curriculum, each of the learners will be tagged to a particular elective. So basically, if the learner is kind of enrolled to a subject that does not have a curriculum guide, such subject will not be shown in LIS, and you cannot use it to tag to a learner. And then later I'll show you, I know the DepEd website right now is not yet updated, but I will give you a link to which you could access because DepEd promised that, those subjects listed under that document will be released with a CG before the start of the school year. All right, and where can you go ahead and access the electives, the curriculum guides again? On the same page, all you have to do is click on the academic electives for you to be able to see, right, the curriculum guides grouped according to clusters. If you can notice right now, the field exposure or experience is not yet there because the website is not yet updated. Okay, now you might want to ask, why is there no budget of work? There's no budget of work because, an academic elective is to be taught in one term, right? So meaning there's no need to break it down into terms because you are supposed to finish that in a single term. So all you have to do is just make sure to finish the whole curriculum guide of a particular academic elective in one term. And there's no need to break it into subterms. Now for tech pro electives, right? So what happens here is that these are the electives right now under each of the clusters. Example is that under aesthetic wellness and human care, we can offer aesthetic services, beauty care, or aesthetic services or the beauty care, caregiving for adult, caregiving for child, and then hairdressing. Then we have basically for the rest. And I'd like to highlight again, if any of the electives, tech for electives is to be offered in grade 11, that has to be offered across the school year. However, if it's going to be taught in grade 12, it can only be offered in one term. So there's no spillover because you might think, can I offer, for example, programming? I'll stretch it to term one to term two. The answer is no because the briefer clearly stipulated that we can only offer tech pro electives, one tech pro elective in a term, in a single term, not across terms. All right, and where can you go ahead and actually download the same? You go to the website of DepEd, go to Tech Pro Electives, so that you'll be able to see the clusters. And then for the budget of work, you could go ahead and open that link. It will guide you to the an identified list of curriculum guides with basically suggestion, of the budget of work. So you might want to ask, why do we need to have budget of work for Tech Pro, wherein it's only taught in a single term? That is because of the Tech Pro being offered in grade 11, right? Because if it's offered in grade 11, that has to be offered across the school year. And so there's a need for what we call as a budget of work. Okay, so I hope that's kind of clear. Now, let's proceed with talking about assessment and grading. All right, so under the Strength and Senior High School curriculum, or even not just under actually with Strength and Senior High School curriculum, but part of the learning system updates of DepEd is that under classroom assessment, we still have the two types. We have formative and we have the summative. Under formative, however, because we actually used to we used to record formative as a written work and used to grade it. DepEd is now clarifying that formative has to be embedded in daily instruction. And the goal of formative is to actually serve as a learning reference that would inform teacher what to teach next. Say, for example, based on the formative assessment, you're able to identify that 75% of the learners were able to actually attain mastery. So is that a good basis for you to teach the next topic? Or if it's showing a lower performance, is there actually a need for you to reteach it? And if you're going to reteach it, how would you teach it better? And of course, the formative assessment will be a reference for you to identify the learners that need additional support. Okay. All right. Now, if we talk about summative assessment, it's basically the same summative assessment before. The only difference is that it's now encompassing, and there's what we call as reorganization. Now, before we only have the written work, the performance task, and then the quarterly examination. But right now, we now have the written and oral works, right? Written and oral works. We have the product performance task. We have the summative test and term examination. So by looking at the third criterion, we can now realize that summative tests are no longer part of the written work, right? The summative tests are going to be added with the term examination. The term examination is like our quarterly examination before, right? So, so what would happen here is that all summative tests are now going to be added with a term examination for us to be able to compute for the summative test and term examination criterion. All right. And then we have the written oral work. This is like the essay, the write-ups, the oral recitation. So you could include those under that. And if I'm not mistaken, there's only a maximum of five entries, a minimum of three entries for the written/oral works, and a maximum of 5. All right. And then for the product performance task, that's the same as the performance tasks before, but it now also includes product. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a maximum of 3 and a minimum of 2 per term. All right. So that is what's going to happen now for the classroom assessment. Now, let me show you as well the grading, weight distribution. So this is now the weight distribution of the different subjects under the senior high school or strengthened senior high school curriculum. If you talk about the core subjects, we're talking about the five, right? The Gen Math, Gen Sci, the uh, the Philippine history, the life and career skills, as well as I forgot the fifth, all right? So that will follow 20, 50, 30 weight distribution and other academic electives, right? If you talk about other academic electives, we just need to look at the other um, determinants there. So if it does not fall to the rest, then that's what you call as other SHS academic electives. Now, for field exposure, the arts apprenticeship and creative product and innovation, that is 15, 70, and 15. So there's quite a change, right, on the weights. Now, if you talk about SHS arts, the sports, the health, and the wellness electives, that would follow 20, 60, 20. All right. So meaning if the subject does not fall under field exposure, arts, research electives, it would actually fall under other SHS academic electives. Now for the senior high school research electives and design and innovation, that's going to be 40 for the written and then 60 for the product or performance tasks. So there's going to be no summative test for the research elective. There's no summative test and term examination for the research electives. It's just going to be comprised with 40% written work or oral, all right? And then the performance or product tasks. Now for the Tech Pro electives, all Tech Pro electives would follow 15, 65, 20, 15 for written or oral work, 65 for performance or product tasks, and then the summative test and the term examination will be 20%. Now, for the work immersion, the same as research, it will not have the summative tests and the term examination. It will have 20% for the written or oral work, and then 80% for the performance tasks and the product, right? Don't you worry because according to DepEd, they'll be releasing a class record so that probably you can just go ahead and select on the drop down, no, to be able to just easily make use of the template without having to change the percentage. Just like before, we're asked to, right? We're just asked to select as to what type of subject is that. Is that applied or specialized or core? And then the template will just be updated with the updated weight distribution. Okay. All right. Now, also introducing this, it's 2026, not 2026. It's 2026 to 2027. This is only true for this school year. They're kind of adjusting the transmutation because before 60 range actually falls under 75, right? But right now, what will fall under 75 as the transmitted grade is the 70 to 72.99. According to DepEd, for the next school year, meaning 2027-2028, they will now make use of the zero-based transmutation table. So basically, this is just an interim transmutation table, and it's only exclusive for school year 2026-2027. And again, the ACR will be updated, so there's actually no need for you to do VLOOKUP just to be able to determine as to what's the transmuted grade for that particular initial grade. All right, now there's also a change in descriptors. Before we have the outstanding, very satisfactory, fairly satisfactory, and did not meet expectation, right? But right now we have an updated descriptor. The 90 to 100 will be advancing, right? 80 to 89 is benchmarking. Then 75 to 79, that's connecting. 65 to 74, that's developing. And 0 to 64, that's emerging. right? Because of course we can already but if you actually take a look at that, it's not going to be 0 to 64. Probably they're incorporating the school year 2027-2028 policy of transportation, because for this year, the minimum grade that we can actually give to our learners is 60. No? So 60 to 64 will be emerging. Now, for promotion and intervention, learners are expected to receive timely intervention and remediation. And we are not supposed to wait at the end of the school year to do that, because you need to understand that probably for core subjects in grade 11, it's okay because it's going to be the same teacher for term 1 to term 3, and probably interventions can be done within, right? However, if you talk about electives, academic electives, at that they're offered one elective at a term. So meaning at the end of the school year, there's already 30 electives to be completed. So that means to say that whatever um, remediation activities that needs to be conducted for the learner, say for example, the learner did not pass term 1, right, or for that elective, that has to be done right immediately and then wait at the end of the school year. Also, in the event that the learner actually failed, remedial classes can still be offered during the summer intervention, right? Um, Especially if the learner failed to pass in at most two learning areas. So meaning at the end of the school year, the learner has really failed about two core subjects, right? So meaning the learner has to undergo summer intervention so that he would have the opportunity to make up for it and obtain a grade of 75 to be promoted. Because in the new policy right now, because before in the strength in the old curriculum, right, if the learner actually did not pass a subject, the learner can just take it as a back subject, right? But in the strength in senior high school curriculum, we no longer apply that policy. What's going to happen is that the learner has to be able to obtain a passing mark to all subjects taken on that level, or else, right, he will be retained, even if there's only one, right? So a learner who has failed one subject for grade 11 must be able to undergo a summer intervention and pass based on the recomputed final grade. Because if he's not going to pass, even if it's only one subject, the learner would need to retake grade 11, all of those subjects, even if they pass the other subjects. All right, so here are some conditions, that you can go ahead and take a look at. For grade 11, passing mark in all learning areas to be promoted to grade 12, failing mark in 1 to 2 learning areas, attend remedial classes, failing mark in 3 or more learning areas, automatic, no remedial, all right, retained to grade 11. Um, Say, for example, the learner has taken summer intervention, but again, he failed in one learning area. Despite the remedial, he will still be retained to grade 11 and retake all the learning areas. In grade 12, passing mark in all learning areas would mean graduation, right? Failing 1 to 2 learning areas to attend remedial classes, failing mark in 3 or more learning areas, automatic retained to grade 12, and then failing mark even in a single learning area after remedial, that's going to be retention to grade 12 as well. So again, it's no longer the same as before. So make it into consideration that after the schedule of the summer, you need to highlight this to your learner, that after the provided schedule of the summer intervention, their grades must be recomputed, because after the summer intervention and then their grade is still failing, they would have to be retained to the same level and retake all those subjects, even though he or she has passed those subjects already. All right. Now, these are the graduation requirements for the academic track. I'd like to highlight for pilot schools only, because according to DepEd, they're gonna make modifications or adjustments, no, for those non-implementing. So this is what we followed. For last school year in our grade 11, This is not actually 3 term. This is semester. I forgot to change it. Right? Our learners under the academic track, they actually took 5 core subjects and then 4 academic electives. Right? And then for grade 12, in the opening of classes, they're going to be taking um, 1280, no, 1280-hour subject. So for pilot schools, they have to be able to complete 2080 hours so that learners will be able to graduate. All right. Now, let me go ahead and actually show for non-pilot schools. For non-pilot schools, this is for DepEd Order number 9, Series 2026. That's 2026, not 2016. And the BCD, or the Bureau of Curriculum Development. So what's going to happen is that for incoming grade 11 non-pilot implementers, they would be taking core subjects under the 3 term. There's going to be 5 subjects that's going to be offered all throughout the year. For the academic electives, that's going to be 1 elective per term. So that's a total of 3. And then for the Tech Pro track, that's going to be 5 core subjects still, with 1 Tech Pro elective for the year. So that's going to be 320, but for academic, that's 240. And according to BCD, they will be doing revisions for the graduation requirements, and that's going to be included in a department order that they're going to go ahead and soon release. So just focus right now on the grade 11. Just make sure that you're going to be able to offer the 5 core subjects, right, for grade 11. And on top of that, 3 academic electives, 1 per term. These are for the learners under the academic track. And for the Tech Pro track, be able to offer the 5 core subjects all throughout the year, and a Tech Pro elective all throughout the year as well, right? And again, this is still subject to change, but in the meantime, this is what is true for now and can be used in the strategic planning process. Right, in terms of awards and recognition, this is not yet released through a DepEd order, but this is covered, or this was covered in the national orientation. We no longer be offering the high with high and then with the highest. It's just going to be a generic academic excellence award. And the criteria is that the learner has to be able to obtain an average of 95 and up with no failing marks, so that he will be able to obtain the academic excellence award. All right. And then leadership, demonstrated leadership qualities, no failing marks. Then excellence in specific discipline, performance, outstanding performance in specific subjects. And then we also have the special recognition, right? Achievements in competition. So these are the proposed, awards and recognition by DepEd. And it's going to be finalized once they will be able to release, right, the final DepEd order particular to the updated curriculum. All right, now let's move to the next steps now. What are we going to expect for the upcoming school year? But before that, I'd like to provide you a link to the shaping paper. The shaping paper is the one that contains the essential information relative to the strength and senior high school curriculum. And that's the link, and you can access this by downloading or going to that link, clicking on shipping paper and reading through the PDF. Second is that these are essential resources. There's what we call for the Landas Toolkit. You also have the training materials. You also have teaching and learning resources. Now, the Landas Toolkit is basically a tool that would serve as your guide, right, in choosing what electives to basically offer, right? Supposedly, the Landas Toolkit is given to grade 10. I'm not sure if you're able to conduct it already, but if you're able to conduct, then that is better. The Landas Toolkit is basically a tool that would allow the learners to kind of answer questions, perform activities, so that they will be able to specifically choose what electives or clusters to take under the strength and senior high school curriculum, so that it would form basis as well by the school if that will be offered or not. All right. Now, there's also a link here for the training materials. These are the training materials for the NCR training. So you can just access that to be able to access these materials that you could also make use of in the implementation for the upcoming school year. The third one is teaching and learning resources. This contains the lesson exemplars, right? These were made by those who also attended the meeting and also made by BCDs. You could access that link, tinyurl.com, strengthen SHSLR. So you would have additional materials to use, especially that we don't have books yet, right? So on top of the CG, there are learning resources that you can use, right? So that you don't need to basically start from scratch and looking up for resources that you can use in the implementation of the Strength in Senior High School curriculum. All right. Now, let me talk about the mapping of elective because accordingly, DepEd says that you can only offer electives under which cluster that your school was approved of to offer. All right. So the question is that since there is a migration of strand to cluster, what are those clustered subjects can we offer based on our permit? All right. So first is that elective offerings are aligned with schools' capacity through mapping of previous SHS tracks and strands to the new elective clusters. And I'll show you later as to what's the mapping. Schools, I'd like to highlight this, schools may offer electives only if they have the required permit or government recognition for the corresponding track or strand. So meaning, therefore, you're only offering academic electives, right? I'm sorry, academic track with gas strands. What can you now then offer to the strengthened senior high school curriculum, considering that gas is no longer part, right, of the strengthened senior high school academic cluster? And I'll show you later the mapping. All right. So meaning you are only supposed to be offering those strand or track to which you have a permit or a government recognition. So existing guidelines on permits and recognition remain in effect unless updated by new issuances. Meaning, if you plan to actually offer a different cluster, academic cluster to which you were not approved yet. So for example, you'd like to offer STEM cluster, but you're not approved of it yet to offer, then you follow the existing guidelines on permits and recognition. And that varies, no, per region. Because for Region 7, I heard that they are now asking the schools to submit letter of intent, all right, for the transition. And on the transition, it already includes provisions on adding or extending offering of clusters. I'm just not sure with the rest of the regions. So please, if you'd like to offer additional clusters aside from what you were previously permitted to offer, please talk to your division office planning officer and seek guidance on how to request for additional permits to offer additional clusters. So here's the mapping, and this is according to the Bureau of Curriculum Development. If you were approved to offer ABM before, you can automatically offer business and entrepreneurship under the Strength in Senior High School curriculum, meaning you can offer the 6 subjects under the business and entrepreneurship cluster. If you were approved to offer general academic according to BCD, you can offer arts, social sciences, and humanities cluster, and there's a lot. You could also offer business and entrepreneurship. You could also offer the cluster of electives previously offered under any
So I guess we're having some technical problems. So we will wait for a while for Doc Enad to enter the Google Meet. For the meantime, also, we would like to remind to please complete and submit your attendance and kindly ensure that your details are correctly entered po.
Okay, so promote to you our upcoming seminar for this July. Okay, for a while. Okay, as you can see in our screen, so we have our upcoming seminar this July 25, 2026 at Holy Name University. So we have an early registration, which is cost of 2,499, and that is all in one powerhouse. So what are those inclusions that we are going to get? So aside from that, we have two premium seminar workshop in one day, and we have also four professional certificates with a 22.5 C. Okay, so as you can see, we have the seminar titles here. We have transformational leadership and instructional supervision. And we have another topic, which is our titles, which is the innovative teaching through ICT integration. So we would like to invite you this coming seminar this July 25 at Holy Name University. So might be you are interested. We have an early registration, which is 2,499, and that would be until June 15, 2026. Okay. So while waiting with our resource speaker, can we have, or maybe we could have a small message of what we have learned from Dr. Inad. And you may also type in our chat box from what place have you been, or kung saan po tayo galing at kung anong school po tayo galing, mga teachers. We would love to hear that. Okay pa ba tayo dyan, mga teachers? Hello! Hala, bakit sobrang tahimik ng ating mga teachers? Wow, so very active. Ang gagaling talaga ng mga teachers natin, Joy, no? So, I believe that they are listening. Regarding of the question, this afternoon po ba ang next speaker or this morning then? Thank you for that wonderful question, Ms. Vega. So regarding of that, ma'am, our first resource speaker will be Dr. Fernando Inad, and our afternoon speaker will be Dr. Allen. So we have two speakers within this day, and the second speaker will be this afternoon. Wow, so I receive messages. Welcome, Mr. Miss Vilma Salas from Tacloban National Agricultural School. Wow, from Tacloban City, kay layo po, no? We have also from Santa Lucia High School, Pasig City. So welcome po sa ating webinar. Wow, Iloilo. Hi, ma'am. Hi, sir. Sir Mauricio. And we have also, ma'am, Edlen from the Capiz. Capiz region, ang lalayo talaga natin, no? But still we have, or buklod-buklod pa rin tayo sa ating webinar because we have the same goal to learn and of course to share what we have learned here in our webinar to our students. Okay, from Benguet, hello po, from Pangasinan. And we have also Sorsogon. So you are very much welcome in our webinar. So, Albay. Layo-layo na natin ha. Okay, so we have also from Baguio. We have from Leyte. Okay, so let me grab this opportunity to give you an inclusions for our upcoming seminar this July 25, 2026. So we would like to give you this wonderful inclusions. Baka matanong po natin, ano nga ba yung babayaran namin, which is cost 2,499, and that is for the early registration. I would like you to emphasize this. We have our first inclusions, the AM snacks plus lunch plus PM snacks. That would be mabubusog po tayo, hindi lang po sa learnings natin, kundi pati na po sa ating mga tummies. So we have 2 snacks, AM and PM, and we have also lunch. Aside from that, we have a seminar kit or the digital
Hello, my apologies.
hangouts. Hi, Doc. Welcome back
I didn't know
po.
that was cut off.
Sige po. So we will continue po
Hello,
our...
ma'am. Which part that I need to continue because I was expected to be done already and then I just realized that I was cut off. Anong part na po? Ano yung last part?
Um, yung, yung last part po, Doc, is teka lang po.
I was continuously talking. And then I
Yeah.
said, thank you for questionnaires. I'm no longer connected to Google Meet because I'm using the full screen, so it's difficult for me to determine whether I'm online. Mapping, oh my God, mapping of electives. Okay. So,
Ayan na po.
okay, oh my God. I have talked a lot and then,
Exit ko muna yung screen ko, Doc, para yung screen na lang po ninyong makita po.
sige po. I'm
Okay po,
sorry.
thank you.
I have
No worries, Doc.
not realizing that I'm no longer connected. Okay, so see, I'm already on the question and answer session. Okay, so let me get back to the mapping. I know, where is it? Okay, mapping. Okay, here you go. Okay. All right. So I'm just gonna go ahead and restart for mapping. So again, in terms of what electives to offer, that would depend, right, on your capacity, the student interest, but of course, guided by the permits, the government recognition that has been provided to you based on the track or strand that was approved of your school to offer. All right. Because accordingly, you can only offer what you are approved of. So even if it may be an interest of the learner to enroll in a cluster, but yet you're not allowed or you're not allowed to offer it because you're not approved of it yet, then basically you have to apply for it before you can offer it. So this is the mapping of the the strand vis-a-vis the electives, right? So meaning if you were approved before to offer accountancy, business and management or EBM, you can freely offer directly the business and entrepreneurship. And then for the academic, general academic, or I believe that's GAS, you can immediately offer class or electives under the arts, social sciences, and humanities cluster, as well as the business and entrepreneurship, and the cluster of electives previously offered under any track or span. Then for the UMs, they can offer immediately, and then of course for science STEM, they can offer immediately the electives under the STEM cluster. So so say for example before you were only approved of general academic, what are the cluster electives that you can offer now? Under this rule, again, you can offer already or immediately without asking for a permit the arts, social sciences, and humanities, or also business and entrepreneurship, and the cluster of electives previously offered under any track or strand. So meaning, if before you have general academic strand and you're offering STEM electives, if for example, pre-calculus, then you can continue offering it under strengthened senior high school curriculum without seeking approval to offer the STEM cluster. Okay? Because those are the provisions. And then if it's going to be UMS, so if you could take a look at it, general academic strand is much better because it's encompassing. Or if you try to take a look at the ABM, it can only offer business and entrepreneurship, right? UMS, it can only offer arts, social sciences, and humanities. But for general academic, it is encompassing, all right? And that again, this is how we map so that in the event that we're able to identify that um, based on the survey, the learners are showing interest in a particular elective to which you don't have a permit yet, then what you can do is follow the provisions, follow the guidelines, existing guidelines on permits and recognitions, so that you will be able to legitimately offer those electives under the strengthened senior high school curriculum, right? And this is for the rest, no, for the tech pro, and this is for the arts and design and as well as sports. Now, on top of that, I'd like to highlight that for public schools, we are already to follow the three-term calendar policy. For the private schools, I believe they were given the prerogative to not offer three-term because there were logistic challenges under the private. For example, in offering the old grade 12 curriculum, what we usually do, right, is to offer or the empowerment technologies will be handled by the same teacher who will handle media and information literacy for the second term. So if they're going to be following the three-term calendar policy, what would probably happen is that the teacher would have to learn additional subject to be able to also teach for term three. But for public schools, we don't have an option because that's DepEd Order number 9, and we're supposed to be, implementing the three-term calendar policy already for the next school year. So let's just have a review so that this would kind of help you in the implementation. For grade 11, meaning everyone, right? We'll be offering grade 11, strengthened senior high school curriculum. Again, for core subjects, it's 5 subjects to be offered all throughout the school year. And then for the academic electives, it has to be offered 1 per term. And then tech pro elective, 1 to be offered all throughout the school year. So let me give you a concrete example as to how it's basically done. So what happens here is that under the strengthened senior high school curriculum, there's what we call as career pathways. Though we have a grouping for academic and tech pro, but it's not basically what we call as kind of a practical grouping because groupings now in the strengthened senior high school curriculum will be based on the interests of the learners, future goals. So what happened here as to why we're able to come up with this is that we conducted a survey, from our learners, and we're able to identify that there is good number of learners who'd like to become accountants and business managers someday. So we kind of created a career pathway for them. So a career pathway is like a course in college, right? And so after determining that, or identifying that, we've decided to take a look at because on the Landas toolkit, it would also display the electives that the learners would want to take, basically. So we consider that, and we're able to identify that based on teacher capacity and school capacity. So we're able to identify that we can offer these subjects under the accountants and entrepreneurs pathway, right? So if you have a teacher's pathway, you also would need to look at the subjects, or the electives that the learners are interested to taking, and then go back to your capacity based on teacher availability, facility, as well as permit, and then try to kind of list, down electives that you can offer for that pathway following the required number of hours. So we've decided that, of course, the core subject is a given because that's common to all, regardless of the track. That we'll be offering the following: the business one, or basic accounting, intro to org, business finance, business economics, contemporary marketing, finite mathematics one, research one, entrepreneurship, finite mathematics two, pre-calculus, research two, and work immersion. So what we did here is following the prerequisites because the business economics actually it has a requisite. So what we did here is we kind of align it in a way that the prerequisites are being adhered to. So we decided to offer basic accounting for term 1 of grade 11, intro to org term 2 of grade 11, and then business finance term 3 of grade 11. So that we will be able um, to adhere to this, right? One academic elective per term, and then there are 3 terms, so that's a total of 3. And then for the rest of this subject, we spread that out. And because you might want to wonder, why are you offering work immersion for that? Because this is accountants and entrepreneurs pathway. Looking at the cluster under the business and entrepreneurship, there are only 6, right? There are only 6 electives. So and then looking at the other electives as well, there's just minimal number of electives that we think of as aligned to the career pathway. And that's the reason why we're offering work immersion. So the work immersion there is 320, and that's equivalent to 4 academic electives. So if you would try to take a look at it, it's still going to be totaling to 15 based on the current requirements. So we spread that out. We have 4 subjects for term 1, and there are 4 subjects for term 2, and then term 3 will be just the work immersion. So how do we go ahead and plot it? So of course we plot it according to terms. And this is according to Depend Order number 9, series 2026, plus the SSHS briefer. So the core subjects are going to be offered 4 hours in a week, and that's the reason why general mathematics is spread all over. We also have life career skills, that's 4 hours. Pag-aaral, 4 hours. Mabisang komunikasyon, that would be 2 hours. And then effective communication, that's going to be 2 hours. A total of 4 because that is one subject with 2 components. All right. All right. And then we have general science 4. And then for the basic accounting, according to DepEd's framing, academic electives, that is 80 hours, should be offered 8 hours, weekly. And that's the reason why we plotted basic accounting for 8 hours on that particular week. And of course, based on the table number 5 of Annex C of Depend Order number 9, series 2026, we are already to include the oral program, and that's the reason why it's included in there. So this is for the term 1. So for the term 2, considering that the core subjects would still be the same and only the academic electives would be replaced by a new one. So for term 2, it's just going to be a replacement of the basic accounting to the intro to organization and management, right? And then for term 3, the intro to org will be replaced with the business finance and income taxation. So that's how it can be plotted, and depending on the number of sections that you may have. So that's, this is your guide and reference on how to plot it seamlessly. Now, for grade 12, so this is just an overview as to how it's going to look like. There are no longer core subjects for grade 12, and so there remains the electives. If academic track would need to offer 4 academic electives per term, and then for the Tech Pro track, 1 Tech Pro elective per term. Okay, so let me show you an example for a complete classroom or class program offering for a grade 12 strengthened senior high school curriculum under the same pathway, accountants and entrepreneurs, right? So what remains now are the subjects under grade 12. So I'll be offering the first four subjects in term one, the second four subjects for term two, and then term three will have work immersion. So this is how it's going to pan out. For term one, I'll have 8 hours per elective, right? So we have the business economics, 8 hours, contemporary marketing, 8 hours, finite mathematics, that's 8 hours. And then we have research one that is 8 hours. So it's being spread across, and we are also including the RL program. All right. Now for term two, basically everything will be changed. So probably what you can try to do as a strategy is that, considering that you're going to be offering it across 3 terms, you could think of, the same teacher. Can the teacher be able to actually teach those subjects in the second and third term? Because if it's going to be difficult, right, that's going to result to a vacuum. So what's going to happen is that you need to strategically plan it out, that the ones who will be teaching for term one will be the same teacher to teach in term two and term three, so that there's not going to be much of a challenge in terms of assigning loads to our teachers. So that is for term two, and then this is for term three. For term three, they're gonna have the work immersion 8 to 5. And if you could notice, the homeroom guidance is still there, especially that monitoring is actually required of. And according to uh, say for example, according to DepEd, the work or the monitor, the one who will do the monitoring and evaluation of learners to our work immersion partners, will have the equivalent number of hours as a load. No? So meaning, if you will be selecting one teacher to do the monitoring, that is actually equivalent to 6 hours teaching. So meaning the teacher will not be teaching for the whole term if he's going to be the work immersion focal person or work immersion teacher. Now, I know that you are also, this is also relevant because you would be offering strengthened senior high school curriculum for grade 11, and then you'll also be offering the old curriculum for grade 12. So here is a suggestion, and this is based on existing releases. Um, the core, the applied, and the specialization, especially for the academic track, can be offered up to 5 subjects per term, right? Because offering 6 would be too difficult. That would result to up to 6 p.m. That's past 40-hour lecture time already, right? And then for TVL, it has to be offered 1 per term. So let me show you another example. So I have here an example from our school for an ABM strand. So these are the only subjects left, no? We have the first semester and the second semester. And since we are now implementing the 3-term calendar, so we need to actually map it out as to which term would you need to offer, right? The subject based on prerequisites, if there are, right? So I'll be offering the first 5 subjects from physical education to entrepreneurship for term 1, and then practical research 2 up to physical education for term 2, and then the rest will be for term 3. So this is an example of how it's going to be done, right? So I'll be offering the first 5 electives all throughout, and it would follow the same number of hour requirement, and that's going to be 8 hours per week still. So the physical education, you might want to wonder, why is it only offered 2 hours? Because physical education is 1/4 of a regular subject, right? Our regular subjects before 80 hour, and then PE is 20, so that's like 1/4. So meaning if a regular subject is to be offered 8 hours per week, then 1/4 of the 8 is 2. So PE 3 and PE 4 shall be offered 2 hours per week. And then the rest of the subjects will be offered 8 hours per week. So we have 21st century 8 hours, Earth and Life 8 hours. Then we have the Intro to Philo 8 hours, and then we have entrepreneurship 8 hours. So that's for term 1. And for term 2, again, we need to offer the second set here. Second set, practical research 2 up to physical education 4. So this is for term 2. So basically, I just replace it, right? And then we have practical research 2, principles of marketing, again, PE, 2 hours. And then for the rest, that's 8 hours. And then for term 3, you could do the same thing, right? Taking a look at the immersion business enterprise simulation, that is supposed to actually be offered up to 6 p.m. up to Wednesday, no? However, in the interest that for work immersion that there's not much of a discussion, you can just plot it that way, or you can even plot it for 8 hours, and then so that corresponding to teacher load, and then just meet up, no, for 4 hours in a week, so that you don't need to extend. Because anyway, for the immersion, it's a work immersion base, meaning they would need to leave our campus and go to their work immersion venues to undergo the work immersion, right? So it doesn't have to really be that you need to meet 8 hours a day. I believe 4 hours meeting would be enough, and then uh, after accomplishing the preparations for the work immersion, then you could send them to their work immersion venues. So this is an example for the old curriculum. Now the challenge here will be on the TVL, because accordingly for TVL, it's going to be offered one per term. So meaning, for term one, you can only offer one TVL, and then for term two and term three, that's when you can offer the rest of the subjects. So it needs strategy, right? It needs strategy. So that's the reason why this information is really essential for you to be able to plan out and be ready for the challenges that you will expect in the implementation. All right. Now I have here a full sample class program that you could access, so that you'll be able to take a look at the examples and play around with schedules, right? So that as basis or reference on how you would also do the same from your ends. All right. Also, by the way, this material that I'm showing to you is accessible through tinyurl.com/ronas-sshs. So you'll also be able to freely navigate the contents that I have presented. But I would suggest to only download the file probably after lunch, so that I'll be able to do the revisions, because we found out some incorrect info, and I have to revise that, so that what you will be able to download is the most accurate one already. All right. So I'm actually done with the presentation, and I hope that I was able to cover everything that you deemed essential, especially in the implementation of the Strengthened Senior High School curriculum for grade 11 and the old curriculum under the 3-term policy for grade 12. So if you have any questions, may I request the host to please do the moderation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Inad, for that insightful and future-focused discussion. So your presentation truly highlighted the importance of integrating technology, innovation, and industry-based competencies into strengthened SHS curriculum. So at this point, we will now proceed to our open forum and question and answer session. Participants may now type their questions, reflections, or insight in the chat box. To make our webinar more interactive, you may begin your message with "my takeaway is" or "my question is." Our resource speakers will gladly answer selected questions and provide additional insights.
By the way, if you actually listed a question while I was doing the presentation, I'm no longer gonna be able to see that because I was cut off. So please, if it's still a question from your end, please just input those questions on the chat box, and I'll be more than willing to actually, answer that question. I believe there's a question here. Can two different teachers, English, Filipino, handle effective communication? That's basically the suggestion, ma'am, no? That the mabisang komunikasyon will be handled by a Filipino teacher, and the effective communication will be handled by an English teacher. However, if logistics is a challenge, and that there's only one teacher, so yes, for as long as the teacher is able to teach the mabisang communication component and the effective communication component, then that's not going to be a problem. I hope that answers the question. Are they, by the way, ma'am, are they allowed to mute if they want to ask the question verbally?
Oh, they can unmute both so they can ask questions. Or you may raise your hands if you have questions then.
Okay, so we have a question here. Does this mean practical research an elective na lang po? If we're talking about the strengthened senior high school curriculum, yes, it's already an elective. The research is under the field exposure elective cluster. It's not part of STEM. It's not part of the arts. It's not part of the business. It's not under sports and wellness. It's under the field exposure cluster. And it's no longer practical research in the strength in senior high school curriculum. It's already before the draft, it's methods of research, but with the release, because we were given a link by DepEd, no, for the upcoming curriculum guides that they will soon release prior to the start of the school year. It's already research one and research two. So basically, the one is the introduction and the two is the in-depth. And the innovation, design innovation will be like the implementation. I hope that answers the question, Ma'am Fajardo. But if you're asking, Ma'am, about the practical research in grade 12 old curriculum, it's not elective, it's applied still. Thank you. Do I have any other questions?
My question din po sa chat box. Please confirm Archel Octavia ano? Please confirm 16
I've
minimum
already
academic.
Ma'am.
Na.
Okay. Sige, ito na lang siguro for Sir Elson. Sir, can we add elective under one sector, even if it's not offered before? For example, in ICT, we have PSS before. We're planning to offer programming now as SSH as elective. Based on the current guidelines, sir, we can only offer electives under Tech Pro from which we were approved to offer. So I would suggest that considering you were already offering CSS before, to offer that in grade 11 so that you can apply for the offering of programming for grade 12. Para hindi na siya magiging confusing. So since you are approved to offer CSS, offer that in grade 11, and then all throughout the course of grade 11, apply for the opening of programming or consult with your planning officer as to what are the process included, no, to be able to offer the programming for grade 12. Can we offer up to Tech Pro electives for pure Tech Pro learners? The answer is yes, you can. You can have one Tech Pro for grade 11, another Tech Pro for term 1 in grade 12, another Tech Pro term 2 of grade 12, so that you can have work immersion for term 3. Right, those electives with curriculum guides are only allowed to be offered for SSHS. The answer is yes, but I'll be sharing you a link. I'll be sharing you a link that contains the subjects that were promised with a curriculum guide before the start of classes so that you can take into consideration. So my suggestion na lang siguro is that you offer in grade 11 the electives that have CGs on the website, and then for grade 12, you can consider already offering other electives from the links that I'm going to share. I lost the link, no? So what I will do is I will just include the link on my PowerPoint presentation, all right? But let me see if I can open it. Let me just take a look here so that I'll be able to show you. I know that the online website of DepEd is kind of limited. So let me see if I can offer to you the document that was shared to us by CO so that you could already use it as a reference for the other electives. Where is it? Okay. Let me just share my screen again. All right. So according to central office, this is as of May 19. So meaning the subjects that are listed in here, though there are subjects with no CGs yet on the website, but according to DepEd, they will release it prior to the start of the school year. And I'll just paste the link to the chat box so that you could also make use of it as a reference. Okay, it's sent. So let me just discuss a bit here. So these are the prerequisites, so meaning please do not offer the subjects under course title if the prerequisites are not um, adhered yet, right? So this is for the arts, social sciences, and humanities. And then under business and entrepreneurship, this is how it's going to be done. That's the reason why I aligned the offering of the uh, uh, accountants and entrepreneurs, right? And this is for the STEM. Um, what used to be available before is just biology 1 and 2, physics 1 and 2, chemistry 1 and 2. But if you could notice, there are already additions, no? 3 and 4 for chemistry, physics, and even we have additions. So again, this may not show up yet on the website. When I say website, meaning I'm talking about the deped.gov, that website. If you access that under K to 12 strengthen senior high school curriculum, there you will find the curriculum guides. You have the one for core subject and academic electives. So if you try to take a look at the clusters here, these are just limited vis-a-vis or compared to here. It's more updated, but the curriculum guides are not yet uploaded here. However, DepEd promised that they will um, before the start of classes. So my suggestion for now is to not preempt, is that just offer whatever is it that has available curriculum guides, no? Um, in grade 11. Anyway, you can adjust the offering in grade 12. Okay. Especially that they're requiring more subjects now. All right. Let me see other questions. Okay. Okay, can a science teacher like me teach creative writing and history in UMS? That depends on if you have the prior training, right? Because it's also professional development. It doesn't have to be that you can only teach, your specialization. You can also consider your professional development. So if you're able to undergo probably a micro credential or a training relative to the subject, then that should be fine. And probably you can request, your principal to have you included in the upcoming training, because I believe there's an upcoming training um, for that. And yeah, okay. Practical research 1 and 2 be taught in grade 12. Um, these are still to be offered. Ma'am Lim, if we're talking about the old curriculum, yes, they're still to be offered because that's a requirement of the old curriculum. So it's not something that you will say that you're not gonna offer because it's part of the old curriculum that they have to take practical research 1 and 2. Two tech pros spread out to 2 terms, not really spread out in a way that the tech pro one will be taught in term 1 and 2, but one tech pro elective to be taught in term 1, and then the second tech pro elective will be taught in term 2. That's basically based on the recent releases. As to if it's going to change, let's find out, no, in the upcoming releases of that. Kailangan ba po ba na it should be the students ang pipili kung ano ang electives na kukunin nila? What if it's not applicable for the school? The notion is that the offering should be based on the leanings or the interest of the learners. But of course, we need to consider our capacity. So meaning, as what I'm not sure if I mentioned it before. Say for example, they like to take calculus, right? And then you are not approved or you don't have STEM approval to offer, and then you don't have teachers to teach it. So though it's in the interest of the learner, let's not push, let's not force our resources to offer that, because it's going to result to problems along the way. So basically, it may be aligned to the learner interest, but we also need to consider our permit as well as the school capacity and teacher capacity po. All right. So that's the reason why for our entrepreneurs and or accountants and entrepreneurs pathway, so we actually our learners identified other subjects, right? Already, but we feel that we cannot offer those subjects because of capacity issues, and that's the reason why we kind of align. We just had to ensure that the offerings that we're gonna offer to our learners are complementary to their goals, no, in the future. So probably yun lang yung masasabi ko na technique na gagamitin natin. It's not always lean towards the interest of the learners, uh, but it's going to be a combination of factors: the interest of the learners, the permit, right? So relative to permit, again, go back to the mapping and see what can you offer if you have this kind of permit, right? And but if you believe that that subject that the learners would like to really enroll is of your capacity, but you don't have the permit, so my suggestion is to start applying for you to be able to legitimately offer that, and you can do the adjustments in grade 12, right? In the past school years, we have the permit to offer gas. Can we offer electives from STEM? So I believe that was covered in the mapping of electives for gas. You can only offer the arts, social sciences, and humanities, meaning the electives under those subjects, under those cluster. You could also offer the business and entrepreneurship cluster, and then you could also offer electives for which you have offered them before. So say for example, uh, gas, and then, di ba, in gas you have two electives ba yata yun? So say for example, for gas, you have an approval for gas, and you're able to offer uh, pre-calculus as an elective. So meaning, in the offering of the strength in senior high school curriculum, since you're able to offer pre-cal already, then you can offer pre-cal for strength in senior high school curriculum. All right. As to offering another electives under the STEM cluster, that has yet to go through approval, and that's the reason why you consult with your uh, DPO or the division planning officer, right? So that you could ask for the process, no, on how to be able to offer such a thing. I know for Region 7, they're kind of streamlining it, because for Region 7, they're only asking us to request for migration of permit and to indicate whether or not we would like to expand. But I'm not sure with the other regions. All right. In the past SY, we only offer TVL track. Anong class ACAD cluster po ang pwede i-offer? That's a uh, trick question. No? Um, so probably the safest way, because of course you cannot. Okay, sir. For TVL track, right? TVL track lang before. So meaning you were already allowed to offer two, diba? Because in the TVL, for the old curriculum, they're required to take two TVL subjects. So what ACAD elective can you offer? You can offer, sir, the electives that were part of the applied or core before. So meaning you could still offer intro to philo because that's part of the old curriculum. You're still allowed to offer empowerment tech. You're still allowed to offer research, you know, because you were allowed to offer that before. Ano pa? Media and information literacy, no? So for those, especially for you, sir, that you were only offering TVL before, just look at the academic electives that is a kind of equivalent to the core or applied or specialized subject in the previous curriculum, and you are safe to offer those academic cluster or academic electives, not cluster. Okay. Next, for grade 12 old curriculum, core applied and specialized subjects almost 16. Will that be divided into 3 terms with 8 hours per week? Thank you. Yes, sir. As I have reflected a while ago, the example that I've shown was ABM. We have about 16 subjects, so we divide that by 30. So we're gonna be so to be able to complete that, and for our learners to graduate, we will need to divide that by 3. So we will be offering at least at a maximum of 5 subjects. Yeah, 5 subjects per term. And then there is a kind of overload for the third term, considering that 16 divided by 3 is 5 with a remainder 1, right? So the first term would have 5, second term would have 5, and then the third term would have 6, right? The good thing about this is that it's not going to be really um what do you call that? Isagad, no? To all 8 hours, because we have PE, which is only 2 hours. PE 3 and PE 4 is only 2 hours per week, um, as compared to the rest of the regular subjects that is 8. So it's still going to be able to be aligned, no? Or to you will still you have a room for offering those subjects without doing an overtime, right? Or overload for that matter, because learners, according to recent releases, should only have a maximum of 40 hours lecture time for the whole week. So I hope that answers the question. So let me just show you again, sir, the sample for that. So this is for the old, sir, no? So based on our remaining subjects, we have about 16, except of course the homeroom guidance, right? So what we did is we spread it out accordingly to 3 terms. So we have 5 subjects per term. So regular subjects are given 8 hours weekly, and then the PE, which is 1/4 of regular subject, is only given 2. I'm sorry. Because 1/4 of 8 is 2, right? So that's for the first term. Then we have the second term for the second set of 5 subjects. And then we have the term 3 for the last set of subjects, no, under the old curriculum. So I hope that answers the question, right? Do we still have any questions? All right. Okay, because we're told that in the SSHS, it's like all schools are off the same footing in the sense that all schools can offer all the clusters of electives. This time, though, if our school offers STEM subjects, we too can offer. The As I mentioned a while ago, the information that we're actually releasing is based, on the check-in meetings as well as the recent releases. Because if you actually take a look at the briefer says that's going to be aligned. It does not talk about the permit. However, in the 5th check-in meeting with central office, it's their line actually, let me just share it again. It's their line. The mapping info that I used in my slide here, that one is actually coming from them. So, and it has the provision, schools may offer electives only if they have the required permit or government recognition for the corresponding track or strand. So while the briefer may say that it's only based on capacity, but this is, this utterance is coming from the Bureau of Curriculum Development. So I believe if we are kind of faced with, an issue, so we always look at, or we're firm on the negative side, right? Just to be safe. So, but according to DepEd, they're gonna go ahead and release updated. So hopefully, on that update, it would be relaxed, no? But for now, I would suggest to still stick to their recent release, and the recent release is based on the fifth check-in meeting with the central office, directly coming from BCD, that offerings, while still be aligned with the learner interest, are still subject to approvals or existing permits or recognition. And if we talk about recognition, we're talking about the strands, and the track and strand offering. Okay. I hope that that clarifies it now. What we are giving now is based on recent releases and pronouncements, but it may change, no? Probably once the final, the DepEd order of the full implementation will be released. And as to when is that going to be released, according to DepEd, prior to the start of the opening of classes. Okay.
So,
Any,
wala na po kayong mga katanungan para kay Dr. Inad? I
parang
guess
wala.
wala na po. No? Thank you for that, Dr. Inad, for actively sharing your knowledge to our participants. And thank you, everyone, for being active and participating to the discussion. So at this point, we once again extend our heartfelt gratitude to our morning's resource speaker for sharing his expertise and meaningful insight with us. So may we now present the certificate of appreciation to Dr. N. Also, we would like to request our participant to open their camera for the photo opportunity along with Dr. Hernandez. Po. So allow me to read this certificate. Citation for the Certificate of Recognition and Participation is awarded to Dr. Fernando B. Inad in his profound appreciation of his valuable contribution as a resource speaker during the national webinar on strengthened senior high school curriculum with the theme Industry Aligned Competencies Preparing Future Ready Filipinos, held on May 22 to 24, 2026 through Google Meet or Zoom platform. His exemplary expertise, inspiring insights, and steadfast commitment to educational excellence have significantly enriched the learning experience of our participants through his engagement. He has empowered educators, deepened professional reflections, and advanced the mission of transformative education for Filipino learners, given the 24th day of May 2026 via Google Meet or Zoom platform. Signed by our Training Center Director, Ms. Leslie Rose B. Gian, LPT. Let's give Dr. Fernando Enad a virtual round of applause.
Thank you so much, Ronas, and thank you so much to all the participants who actually actively raised questions. No, because the good thing about your cohort today is that there were a lot of information. Not like with us before, that we were really scrambling through the dark to be able to find answers to our questions. So congratulations for having been able to participate in this training and for you to add more knowledge, right? Into how to implement, no, strengthen senior high school alongside with the old senior high school curriculum in the upcoming school year, with consideration to the three-term policy. Once again, thank you so much, Ronas, and to the participants.
Thank you so much also, sir. Kindly open your camera for the photo opportunity. So in three, so in 3, 2, 1, smile. Another one po. So in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Ay, last one po, last one po pala. Sorry, sorry, sorry. In 3, 2, 1. Smile. Wala tayo. Okay. Thank you. So please stay connected with us because we still have another exciting and enriching webinar session this afternoon. So at this juncture, po, we respectfully acknowledge the disapproval of our request for the change of schedule under the accredited program of PTR 2025-742-13165 due to the policy regarding retroactive requests for the change of schedule. We sincerely apologize for this matter, and we would like to humbly explain that the reason for the requesting the schedule adjustment was due to an unexpected conflict in the availability of our confirmed resource speaker who has committed to another engagement on the original approved schedule. In consideration of maintaining the quality and integrity of the webinar, we requested to move the schedule to May 22 to 24, 2026 through Google Meet or Zoom. We admit that this concern was unintentionally overlooked on our end, and this is the first time with such an incident has happened in our institution. Rest assured that we highly valued and respect the policies and guidelines of the CPD Council, and we will take extra precautions to avoid similar situations in the future. We humbly asking for your kind understanding regarding this matter, and thank you very much for your patience and continued guidance. So here is in our screen we can see the CPD unit schedule notice, program dates of May 22 to 2024. The CPD units posting dated is on May 31, 2026. This is the approved from the PRC. So at our end, the continuing professional development unit, the professional development units for the recent seminar was appear on May 31 as this is the date officially approved by the PRC with the PTR-2025-742-13165. Originally a request was made to change the approval date because the schedule of our resource speakers conflicted with the original plan. To ensure the quality of the program, the seminar was rescheduled. However, the PRC did not approve the change of date, and therefore the CPD units must remain under the original approved date of May 31. Please be assured that all participants will still receive their corresponding CPD units. The change in the actual conduct of the seminar will not affect the validity and crediting of your units. The only difference is that the units will appear in the PRC system on May 31 following the approved schedule. This is the this is the first time such a situation has occurred, and the organizing team has coordinated closely with the PRC to ensure that all participants' records remain accurate and properly credited. Rest assured that your CPD units are secure and will be reflected as approved. So we would like also to inform all participants that the release of the CPD certificates and other related documents is expected within the first week of June 2026 and will be sent to your registered emailed address. May we also gently remind everyone that certificates and documents will only be issued to participants who had successfully completed and submitted all required tasks, evaluations, attendance, and other necessary requirements. We sincerely appreciate your patience, understanding, and cooperation throughout the process. Thank you very much for your continued support. So we have also here the International Certificate Notice from American Council of Training and Development. All webinar participants will receive an international certificate via email. The release schedule will be on May 24th, 2026 at 1 p.m. and will end at May 25, 2026 at 5 p.m. Please check the email address you use for registration, including your spam or junk folder. For issues and receipts of details, contact the program secretariat on or before May 27, 2026.
You're in mute, ma'am.
Sorry po, thank you for that. So you'd like to invite you once again for our upcoming seminar workshop on July 25, 2026 at Holy Name University, where you would earn up to 4 CPD units, receive a professional certificates, and learn from expert speakers and practitioners, network with fellow educators and school leaders. We have the seminar titles, Transformational Leadership and Instructional Supervision, and Innovative Teaching through ICT Integration. So if you want to join us, you may secure your slot now and take advantage on our special discount rate with the early registration rate of only 2,499 pesos. So don't miss this opportunity to grow professionally, enhance your competencies, and become a more effective leader and educator. For inquiries, registration details, and updates, announcements, and upcoming professional development programs, you may follow our Facebook page, the Realizing Opportunities Nurturing Achievers, or RONAS Training Center. So at this moment, we will be having our lunch break, and we invite everyone to take this time to enjoy your meal, relax, and recharge. Please be reminded to return promptly as we will resume our program at 1 p.m. for the second session of our seminar this webinar this afternoon. We look forward to seeing you everyone back on time, and enjoy your lunch po.
And reminder once again, please do not forget to fill out our attendances as well as our evaluation to our resource speaker. See you later.